imagine we want to do a page like this. Register for classes on top as a title, then two subtitles, spring quarter and summer quarter, some text, and two buttons. Okay? So, in the same way that the layout happens by rectangles, it's helpful for you to think of the organization of this page as rectangles. Specifically, there will be on the top the title that we fill with text. Okay? After this, we want to essentially create two columns. You know, one for the spring and one for the summer session. And in each one of these columns, we want to have a subtitle. Then we want to have some text. And then we want to have a button. Okay? Not only that, but we want these elements to look nice and appropriate, right? So we have two choices. One is that we could style everything ourselves, but the other choice is to actually use a CSS framework which gives already classes that, when added to div and other elements, will provide the styling we are looking for, okay? And in this class, I want to use Bulma CSS. So Bulma CSS is a CSS framework that enables you to obtain a fairly wide variety of styles and visual arrangements for a page. If you want to include it in a page, let's build here the page. Okay, so we need a bit of the standard structure, that is at the beginning there is a head, okay, and then there is a body here, okay, body, and the body is empty so far. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is to include the Bulma CSS. Bulma CSS is simply a CSS file like my CSS in the previous lecture, only much longer. And there are two ways of using it. One is to download it. You see, if you go to Bulma Overview Start, you can either get the Bulma CSS file, you can just download it, or else you can use a content delivery network, which is a service essentially to make information available on the cloud, on the web internet for everybody to use. And you can simply use this link statement in your registration page. That's what we are gonna do, so I don't have to download a file. And so this does it. Okay, if you want to see the entire link, it's this. Okay, so once we do that, we have Bulma available, and then we have to figure out, with a reference to our page, how to render it. So let's start. We are in the body, and Bulma likes to put things inside something that is called a section. This gives you spacing from the borders of the page, top and bottom and left and right. Okay, so inside it is, we worry first about the title. One simple way to do the title is simply to say h1, which in Bulma doesn't mean anything, but class is equal to title. This will make it look like a title. And then we can say register for classes. Okay, this is quite enough, but I want to put this actually inside a div that is of class block. Block. Okay, so I do this. Here I close it, and let me reflow this so that it's properly indented. Okay, the div of class block essentially will cause a vertical space separation between this title and the rest, including the subtitle. So you see, I want some separation here between the title and the subtitle, and this div of class block is what gives it to me. So when I use these elements, what I do is that I look at the Bulma documentation, and then I look, for instance, at elements, and here is my title. Okay, so here is where You know, there are 6 types of titles. You can read all about it, be happy, etc., etc. So you see, there's class is equal title is 1, title is 2, and so on and so forth. And this block statement is this one, which says Bulma's most basic spacer block, and is used to introduce a bit of vertical space, such as between this paragraph and this paragraph. Okay? So this should render my title. Let me see whether this is true. I save these and we look at the effect. So I have to open that file, open file, and then I have to navigate to it. Okay, great. So we have done one piece of what we need to do. Now we need 2 columns, and in order to learn how to do columns, so you go here, so you look at the columns, you start reading from the basics, and this tells you how to do columns. You know, that is an example. So you see, you need the div of class columns with inside many div of class column. So let's do it. Here, after this section, I say div of class is equal to columns. This will be the container. Oh, and let me say that this is of class block as well, so that I can get the nice vertical spacing. Okay, so inside here got my 2 columns. The first will be div class is equal to column singular. So this is 1 column, and here will be the other column. Div class is equal to column. Okay. So what do we need to do inside each one of these columns? So let's look a moment at what we have to do. Here. Each column must contain a subtitle, some text, and a button. So let's do it. So the subtitle is, I can say h2 class is equal to subtitle will work just as well. I could use these 2 or one of these others. This works. Spring quarter. And then let me just cut and paste it. This will be the summer quarter. Okay. Now after I do this, I need to put the text, and so the text will look like this. For spring, I use a div again with my oh, sorry, I should have put it inside here. Okay, so this is a div of class block again to ensure spacing. Okay, and for summer I will do the same. I will have a div here. Now I try to get this place right. Yes. Okay, so these are the 2 blocks, and all I'm missing is the buttons. So I do the first button. So I put it again in a div of class block. Okay, because this again gives me the vertical spacing. You see, I want to have a little bit of vertical spacing between the text and the button below. So I do this class block, and inside I put a button, which is actually an HTML tag of class is equal to button. Okay, how boring. With a register written in it. And let me just cut and paste these also for the other div. Okay, so this is a fairly good attempt. Let's see how this page looks. I save it and I reload it. So this is what we want, but this is what we've got so far. It's not aligned correctly. It looks fairly okay. These colors are wrong. So what is going on? So the alignment is because unfortunately this went out of the section, okay? This was my mistake in typing. These columns should have been inside the section. Okay, so let me reflow the entire thing so that it's better formatted. So that was one mistake that I did. You see, this is what happens to text when it is not inside a section. The spacing from the end of the page, left and the right margins are not right. So let me reload. Okay, this is okay, except if you look at what we have to obtain, the button is not of the right color. And so if you look in Bulma, for example, at elements button, Bulma tells you that there are plenty of colors you can choose from. Primary, link, info. If you like, there is a way to redefine these colors, but Bulma calls them the primary color, the link color, the info color, the success color, the warning color, and so forth, right? And so, in order to obtain the right colors, we have to, so there is a way, as I was saying, to redefine how these colors look like. We may get into that later. You need to essentially regenerate the Bulma CSS file. But here we will just use them, and so here in the first button I will give it class is button and also is success, and here class button and also is link. Okay, and so if I do this and I reload, it seems I have one, because this is the same as that. Unfortunately, it's not quite true. I haven't quite won yet, so if I squish these, look at what happens. I squish, I squish, I squish, I squish, and then they go one below the other. This may very well be what you want, but you may also want this behavior, that you can squish, 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 and for a much longer time, then it becomes unsquishable, it's apparently my browser. But as long as you can fit more than one word per line or something like that, they stay side to side. So if this is your idea of rendering, rather than this one, you can obtain it by adding here columns block, and you say is mobile. This changes the threshold for putting the two columns one after the other. And so if you do this, from these, if I reload, you get this, which is what we wanted, okay? And this is also documented in the columns. So if you go here and look at the columns, and you look at responsiveness, this attribute is mobile is described. So in short, this gives you a very rough overview of how to build a web page. You start to organize it in terms of rectangles and lay out the page, as if you are a typographer trying to decide how to do the first page of a newspaper. Okay? And then for each element you need, such as a title, a column, etc., you essentially refer to the Bulma documentation in order to figure out how to make it happen. If you want columns, you read how to get columns. If you want buttons, you look at how to get buttons. And Bulma is one of many CSS frameworks. It's a very nice one, very rich. There are others as well, and if you were to use another one, you would do the same. You would have decided that you use some other .css, and then you look in the documentation how to generate the elements you want. This, I have to say, carries a drawback. That is, when you build web pages, you need to decide which CSS framework you are using. Okay? This is done with Bulma. If I want, I can customize Bulma, as I mentioned, and I can make sure that the colors are different. However, if I were using a very different CSS framework, for example, one that I actually like a lot is called Stupid CSS. Stupid CSS. Okay, done by Massimo Di Piero, the same author as of Py4Web. Stupid.css is one of my favorites because it's so incredibly simple. But things you could still produce a reasonable page like the one I made, but HTML you would have to write is different. For example, this div class block, this wouldn't have any use in stupid.css. So this tells you that the original idea that I mentioned of having HTML to describe the content and CSS to describe the layout, in the end is a bit of a lie. In fact, it's a big lie. Because in the end, in modern web development, the HTML you write depends quite closely on the CSS framework that you decide to use. Okay?